On this episode of the podcast, I have with me Daniel Sachs. He is co-founder and CEO at Landbase, and we're going to be talking about democratization of technology. We're going to dive into some areas about AI with change management, workflows, and we won't mention it as agentic right now because we'll see how we want to dub this term. And we're going to also talk about how is technology shifting? Are we going to see the end user, the stakeholder, more involved potentially? A couple of things in there as well with Daniel, see how much time we have. But Daniel, thanks for taking the time.
Great to be here.
Absolutely. Before we start, can you tell everyone what you guys do at Landbase?
Great. Landbase helps businesses find their next customer. And the biggest pain point businesses face is how to grow. And we have trained the first AI model, GTM1 Omni, to be able to predict and execute sales and marketing campaigns using chat.
Awesome. Well, we're going to obviously be diving into some AI. I like this topic because I have been talking a little bit about how technology is leaving the confines, or has been leaving over as an evolution of technology departments, software teams, and into the hands of the users. I guess as you kind of have seen this evolution as well, I mean, you've been involved in a number of startups. Do you kind of look at this concept of democratization of technology? Is this something brand new? Is it just evolution of what we've seen? Because I've seen two different points of view on this. I guess we'll maybe start there.
I think that democratization of technology is something that's happened since the dawn of technology itself. I think the big shifts, at least in the B2B world, is moving from on-prem to cloud, which enabled new business models and new experiences. And now with cloud to a AI native experience. And the biggest change that I've seen lately is that in the past, humans had to tell software what to do. And we literally had to live in our software and orchestrate it and be stuck in front of a screen. And with agentic AI, there's the potential that actually the AI does the work and we no longer have to work for our software works for us. And I think that is a fundamental shift that will democratize a lot of things that previously would have only been available to companies that had resources to do sophisticated engineering work. So we're already seeing with the introduction of vibe coding, companies like Lovable Bolt, where you can chat in natural language and engineer things that previously would have been only possible if you were an engineer by code. So that to me is a huge example of democratization of technology through opening up something that previously wasn't available to people and now allowing AI to do the work for you. And Landbase similarly is doing that for go-to-market, where previously you needed to have a high level of sophistication to be able to put in place systems to run omni-channel campaigns, and you needed humans to orchestrate that. But now you can chat in natural language to AI, and AI can execute all these workflows for you.
Absolutely. I guess a question there, because when the topic of AI comes up, I will invariably post about it, and I will get messages back around two things. One, this is not going to happen. They're just talking about another thing that's just all hyped up. And the other is this is horrible. We're all going to lose our jobs. It's interesting because 18 months ago it was all curiosity. Now there's a little bit of a divergence in how people are viewing this. When you talk about, and we talk about democratization, we're talking about, you said us doing the work versus the agent doing the work for us. In your view of AI, is this a case where the partnership changes in terms of the workflow? Is the human in the loop there? Do we all just go take vacations? Because with the prognostications of doom and gloom were from various big names out there, we won't name names, but it's like, hey, in 10 years, we'll all have no jobs. We'll just be foraging for food.
I think if you look at the dawn of technology or the Industrial Revolution or the initial compute revolution, there's always been this perception that robots will take our jobs. However, I think the reality is humans always find ways to innovate and find new types of functions. I think one example of that is the whole creator economy. So right now you have people who are, individual creators. It wouldn't have been a role that existed in the past, but are making a ton of money. Take a Mr. Beast or anyone else in the realm. So I think that even if we live more digital driven lives and agents do a lot of what would have been done in the past, I think there'll be new sources of entertainment and consumption that will provide for ingenuity. I would say when it comes to the rapid adoption of AI, I'm blown away at the pace of momentum and advancement in the last 18 months. So when generative AI came out, there was obviously like a big push with that wow ChatGPT moment, but there was also a reality that anyone who had been working on agents or agentic AI, people thought that would never work, and it would be decades or many years before. And what I've found now is that not only have AI agents been transformative, you have these theoretical research principles around how you can use agents to orchestrate a browser, and that now is made possible. So if you looked at some of the advancements from DeepSeek driving multiple VMs at browser innovation, or ChatGPT agent, or Perplexity Comet, you can now have agents that execute workflows for you that go across the browser, and like that opens up endless potential. So I think, and arguably, like if you went back a year, you'd say like people who are working on these problems are failing and it won't work. So I think there's this trade-off where the technology is advancing faster than I would have expected. At the same time, humans' ability to adopt it is maybe moving slower than what I would have thought.
I actually think that's a great way of looking at it. And I do think that we're still catching up. Like I feel like every new iteration that we hear is faster than we got comfortable with the previous one. And I think this is a case where, as humans, we are still catching up with what we've seen in the last 18 months. When we talk about democratization of technology, I guess traditionally, for technology to be produced, we have to go through various processes. We have to get technology experts involved. They need to go build. It takes 4, 6, 8, 10 months, God, maybe longer for bigger projects. I mean, all these things happen before something's delivered. And by that time, potentially, we don't even know if the solution works anymore. And then we go, a lot of IT projects fail because things go wrong. I think it's because there's just too big of a gap from need to delivery. That's because technology is hard. Obviously, you guys are, I mean, in terms of Landbase, obviously a little bit different scope, but even at a go-to-market scale, shifting the power from having to go wait versus I can go do, and I can get a solution that gets me, let's say even it's 80%, 90% there versus waiting time. I think that unlocks a lot of different potential that we've never seen. We're talking about opportunities in the market right at time, and then that lag has always kind of been the problem. When you think about the opportunity of putting technology in the hands of people to actually build some of those solutions to be able to do their jobs more efficiently, I think it changes the game. Technology might suffer, but what are your thoughts in terms of shifting and seeing that little tipping into the that we're talking about here?
I started in technology in 2009 when there was a transition from on-prem to cloud, and at that point, you could sign 5-7 year deals. It took years to plan to implement something, and then as SaaS evolved, things got faster to the point that people thought it was really fast, and you could put products out a minimal viable in a matter of months and learn and iterate, and contract cycles shrunk to 5 years to maybe 3 to 1 year. And I think now you're literally seeing tools that can be built and adopted within months, but that also could mean that those companies could see retention challenges. So I think that the pace of change is so rapid that it's very hard to predict where the durable value or the moats are. So to your point, I think that the easiest solutions to build quickly are probably the easiest ones for someone to overtake very quickly. And I think the hardest problems, like you take OpenAI, that was not a fly-by-night endeavor. That took a decade of research and innovation and really smart people working on problems. So I think that the category leaders are companies that are the Googles or Facebooks or OpenAIs of the future are probably working on pretty hard, sophisticated tech that's not going to be easy to release within a matter of months. At the same time, you have this new cohort of companies that someone could start, in their room, create a huge value, extract a lot of cash, and could be fairly transformative. So I think you're going to see this divergence where you have some very hard problems that people are running at that will take longer, and particularly more in deep tech. And then you'll, at the same time, have people who are just creating these apps that generate unprecedented amount of money, but they may, also flail out very quickly.
Absolutely. When you think about, some of these, and you mentioned, the role of the human, the role of the software involved in the process. When we think about that component, the workflows, that seems hard. That doesn't seem to be something easy, because you do have to kind of re-envision changes to what the paradigm has looked like for a very long time. But when you do think about some of the workflows that are available, how to actually take advantage of them, how to actually look at the problem with a new set of eyes versus trying to apply that to the problems in the way we've worked in the past, that rethinking component, is that just takes us time because we haven't done it? Is it require new skills, I guess, from a perspective of turning these problems on their heads and looking at new solutions? How do we kind of rethink these workflows that we're talking about?
I think that on an individual level, there's skills that you can learn to take advantage of advancements in AI. So for example, prompt engineering and sophistication at prompts in specific areas could benefit anyone, or the ability to, interact and early adopt tools. I think though, across a business, there could be the opportunity to probably save, 80% of labor and tech costs by rethinking workflows. And that's much harder for businesses to capture than I would have expected. And this is the challenge with digital transformation, that if you have incumbent systems, people, and workflow, it's not obvious how you're going to recapture that time. So one of the things we've seen across a lot of our customers who have implemented is that we will literally save 30, 50% of time of an individual, but that person's time will not be opaque to the company. So for example, you can't be like, if I used to have two people, now I'll have one, because people are finding time to do other things, or people are using it's just very hard to measure and recapture. So I think that the companies that are most disciplined about recapturing the saved time are going to be the ones that probably have like a much more efficient cost structures and grow faster.
I like that view. I guess it's helping people identify those, helping people actually go through the process of adjusting to these new workflows, that change management component. Who typically spearheads that, or who have you seen in charge of that or leading those initiatives, and kind of what have you seen from that?
So we actually have a role. So my chief of staff is also our head of AI ops. And what we've done is defined across the business different functional objectives, but we also need to pull them into unified systems. So we came up with this concept of like the AI factory, which is, within departments, you can adopt AI. And for code, it might be that most of our code is written through CodeGen via Cursor or Cognition or others. For go-to-market, it's using Landbase, which is an AI native tool. So we've kind of looked across all of our functions and said, how do we encourage like functional leaders to automate workflows? But then there's also this operational cross-functional element. So what we've noticed is, okay, we have all these note takers, right? Or we have all these different ways of capturing information. So information might be in Notion, it might be in different databases. And if we can bring that all together and then ask our AI to find efficiency opportunities, to put together patterns, to figure out where we can develop our talent, that's when you're really harnessing AI. So what we've had to do is not only encourage functional leaders to adopt modern AI workflows, but also have a centralized function where I can query all the systems across Landbase and ask it any question.
I like that. When you're kind of thinking about the way you guys have evolved, you mentioned the AI factory. have you made adjustments in terms of, and a number of headcounts a little bit hard to ask, but I guess number of headcount. Have you seen tangible benefits from some of these AI solutions where you're like, we just don't need as many people to execute the business model anymore?
Yeah, absolutely. And like the benefit I have from starting a company from scratch is we are native, we are lean. To do what we are doing here, you maybe would have needed 3-5 times more people than we've hired. And what I'm even finding is that we just raised a fresh 30 million equity round, and we had projected to spend a lot of that on headcount. And we actually made the call to pause a lot of our headcount spend because we actually don't have the justification to implement it. We're just seeing so much efficiency with the existing teams. So I think that you're going to have this, again, like bifurcation of companies that are so efficient that you can scale not linearly, but exponentially with a certain stable headcount. And therefore, you might be able to grow much more capitally efficiently than historically.
And something that we don't talk about a lot is we're always trying to bring more value, bring more time back to the user to do something. And I think human nature sometimes, as we get more time back, we're not as efficient as maybe we should be. With a solution in AI, I mean, obviously, because Landbase as maybe an example here, but what do you see people doing with the extra time they get back from a product like yours?
Well, Landbase's brand statement is reclaim your day. And it's the notion that throughout the last decade of using software, we've had to do a lot of manual, repetitive processes and be a slave to our computer. And Landbase wants to create an environment where we can free you to do the things that you love. And what that manifests like in a practical sense is if there were things that you used to do navigating a mouse on a screen, a lot of that may be able to be done better through machine intelligence. And therefore, you can chat in natural language and interact with your AI. But a lot of your extra time can be spent doing higher value tasks, whether that's engaging with your customers in person, whether it's getting out into activities, whether it's saving time for you to spend more time with family. It's to be seen. But I definitely think a lot of the tasks that we would have done on a screen will go away. And will be replaced by really us being a curator of machine intelligent recommendations, a creative strategist, someone who's going to be really optimizing for decision making versus a lot of manual processes.
Absolutely. And I get some interesting reactions when I do put episodes that have a AI component to it, an AI tool, something like that. And I've wondered now for a few months about that reaction. And I think a lot of it's fear-born that people hear there's a tool that's coming that's going to eliminate parts of our jobs or things that we're very comfortable with doing. When you look at a salesperson's day, an SDR's day, and you look at the amount of time they spend and the yield output, it's always not a good ratio. We all hear the results driven component of it and how much effort it takes to get to a deal being done. When you look at that and you look at having to go through that change management so that you can optimize a sales individual's day, that's going to shift maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years of learned behavior in a system that people train. There's a whole world built around this process that we've seen. I mean, social media made an impact, but we're talking about eliminating some of the touch points that people are maybe particular to, comfortable with. How do you see that change management aspect play out, especially when we're talking about a salesperson?
I think that it's different for the different cohort of people. So if you started in sales like I did 15, 20 years ago, I remember having to pick up the phone book and doing dials for the bank that I worked with from wealth management. And if you think about what happened over those 20 years, you went to be introduced to use a CRM and then to use sequencing tools. And then the layering of sophistication goes on. But if you had just started in the last 60 days, you'd probably be learning automations on clay and enrichment and prompting. Again, if you started 30 years ago, you maybe would have just been playing golf in person. So I think that with any technological advancement, you're going to have some people who quick adopt and that gives them an edge. You're going to have other people who maybe don't adopt and they still use their old strategies. So I'm not an extremist to say like everyone has to use AI for everything and it's going to be all AI, otherwise your job's going to be gone. I do profess, though, that this new cohort of software, you don't have to work for it. It works for you. And that's the beauty of agentic AI. So I do think that the last decade pre-agentic AI, it required us to spend more and more time moving a cursor in front of a screen and doing work that didn't seem so fun. Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm in front of a computer for 10 hours just moving a mouse, my brain doesn't feel great. Whereas if I'm, in an office or out in person with clients, I feel amazing. I get back, energized with an incredible day. So I would say that it's not necessarily that the jobs are going to go away as much as AI can make us far more intelligent. It can bring data to the fingertips, and it can help assist us in any way we want to engage in business.
Fantastic. And maybe last question. And actually, everything you just said makes sense. It is all evolution. And I think, I kind of now have learned that AI is an evolution on humans always trying to find ways to become more efficient and save time. I think that's what I've seen AI as. I don't see it as a threat. I see it as the tool is evolving. You mentioned, not using the phone, using email, using CRMs, not writing things down. These are all having things that become more efficient at the job. If you had advice for a salesperson that wants to jump in and start using AI in their day-to-day beyond what we see, right? Beyond the current, is there a good area to kind of go, hey, this is how I can start automating my day, and not just drip email campaigns, because drip email campaigns, there's tons of tools that do that, but I don't think that's necessarily AI automation. That's just a sequence pre-built, pre-sent.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if you look at a new cohort of sellers, they're learning how to prompt in very sophisticated ways. They're learning how to build enrichment. So I'd say that, the best way would be to take a prompt course in GTM. You probably Google, there's a lot of what used to be the traditional sales influencers or, coaches that would give you the 10-point plan on how you structure your messages. All that has just evolved into modern GTN tools where you can leverage AI to do prompting. So we've seen on Landbase, as we alluded to earlier, there's some sophisticated users that are doing very advanced prompts. And there are other users that are just doing basic prompts, but you can definitely tinker with it and make it fun. So one of our partners, workflows.io, does a really good job at educational content. So yeah, you could go to them and learn more about prompting.
Absolutely. Daniel, I appreciate your time and going through the discussion. If somebody does have a follow-up question, if somebody wants to learn more, what are some good ways of doing that?
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. So it's Daniel Sachs. You can go to my website, danielsachs.ai, or you could send me an email, daniel@landbase.com.
There you go. Well, if somebody does need to get a hold of Daniel, if they have a follow-up question, want to learn more about the product, Daniel just gave us a ton of ways to do that, so I appreciate that. And that's it for this episode. Be back again. Different guests, different topic. Until then, a few things. One, I think we had a great conversation with Daniel in terms of how we are seeing some of the evolution of tools. And obviously, we're not just talking about, salespeople in the real larger context. We're really talking about, how technology is shifting and where people are taking advantage of them. And we're also seeing workflows be reimagined. We're seeing change management take effect, and a couple of things in there that hopefully you guys can share with other people that are going to benefit from it. Also, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know how the show is going for you. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.